traders. It is Wednesday, August 28th, and it's time for our weekly live event. We have kind of a dull market. Everybody's waiting for the NVIDIA earnings tonight after the close. Could it be a big market driver? We'll get into that discussion a little bit later. But as always, I want to take a look at the stocks that we've recently highlighted. That's the only way that you're going to be able to gauge if the systematic trading approach that Harry and I teach works. Harry's not logged in just yet, but I expect to see him shortly. In any event, I'm just going to continue here. Dell Computer, that was a stock that I continued to highlight last week during a live event. Was looking for a little bit of a market pullback, but we haven't gotten it. And with that market pullback, we would have been looking for a breakdown below the 200-day moving average. I've got my alert set right there, that little pink line, and you can see a red E on Option Stalker Pro. What the heck does that mean? That means that it's about to announce earnings. If I hover over it, you can see 829. I would not be trading Dell today. We got to wait for those earnings announcements, so we do not trade over that earnings announcement. But what I've seen so far in the stock technically tells me that there is some weakness. During the last leg of the market rally, the stock is compressed. It has not been able to advance. So we didn't get the market breakdown. Again, we'll get into that in just a little bit. Last weekend, Sunday, I produced a video. I gave you a long and a short because we're day trading right now. We're waiting for that market breakout or that market breakdown. You can see the stock has actually advanced over the course of the last few days, although marginally. So it's not way up, but it is up a little bit. So there's the close. That would have been the opening Monday morning. Stock is a little bit higher. Nothing to write home about. MU is a different story. That is a short that I gave you. And oh yeah, from 102 down to 93 this morning. That is a beautiful winner. I did also have a position that I posted in the chat room from last week. I was short MU, bought the September 20 110 puts for 980, sold them this morning for 1380. Could have done better on the exit, but yesterday I was already thinking, the stock has found support. I'm really okay getting out of the position this morning. So I put an offer out there and they took me out right away, and then the stock dropped. So I was fine with the profit. I made a really nice gain on the trade. But yes, if I would have held on a little bit longer, I could have done better on it. And what I was looking at this morning is we did have weakness in the QQQ. SPY right in here was compressing, really going nowhere. It was below VWAP, resistance, 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 couldn't get above it, and eventually it cracked down. While we're waiting for Harry to join, I'm going to put you into our chat room and just show you some comments from this morning. So these are the things that we needed to watch this morning. VXX, I'm going to go through some market commentary. So we will review some of the things that I had mentioned to you. And early in the day, right out of the gate. Okay, so this is not 15, 20 minutes after the open. This is at 8:31, which is 1 minute after the open. Wolf and MBLY bearish alerts triggered. So we're going to take a look at those. And I also want to show you a nice little trade that I did in the chat room this morning. I'll talk a little bit about why I took that trade and what I was watching. I outlined all of this. You can see this short ES at 56.92.25. And there I posted my
Will, am I live?
entry for the trade, so you can see it right there.
Pete, can you hear me?
Why did I take that short? What was I looking
Can you
at?
hear me?
As I'd mentioned in the chat room, we had a
My video
breakdown
isn't on the
below
There I am.
this horizontal support, and most importantly, I was watching the XX. So let's put the XX.
What's that?
Okay.
Can you message
Uh,
him?
Will, I am currently hearing you. So we're trying to get Harry to join us. Will, I'm hearing you just fine. So
Hey, Pete, can you hear me?
I cannot hear Harry. So I don't see Harry in my video console. I see a spinning wheel, Will. So let's see if we can get him in. It's trying to connect, but it's not allowing him in.
I'm in. I'm live.
Those of you that are on the video, we are refreshing a page that I guess I need to do, and I can see Harry.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear Harry.
And there you go.
Harry, how are you doing?
Spectacular. How are you, Pete?
I'm doing good. I'm going to take a sip of my coffee too. Market's been pretty boring, so we need everything we can to keep us engaged here. So I was just talking a little bit about what I was watching for this morning and why I took that short position in ES. And you can see we had a sell signal. Talk a little bit about our new trade signals. There's a sell signal from yesterday. We had this compression. We had 1OP cresting. We had a bearish cross right here. And as I mentioned in the chat room, we're keeping an eye on VXX. I set an alert on VXX so that when I got a little pop up right here in VXX, I would know about it. As soon as I saw that, I had my sell order loaded on ES. I banged it out, got an excellent fill, and then we got this long red candle. I did take profits in here near the prior day's low. Why? Because we've seen long red candles in the last week and they have not materialized into sustained selling. We don't have to worry about these long red candles. We worry about a series of many smaller red candles with no wicks and no tails. That is sustained selling that we can get behind. So, with this type of choppy price action, why would I expect the market to make another leg lower today? I wouldn't. So I'm going to just take gains on my position and I'll see what happens throughout the course of the day. So before I get into market analysis, Harry, what was your last trade? I know what your last trade was from last week, so I'm already going to queue it up.
MMM.
MMM. And that has been a nice little grinder. So let's go into a 15-minute chart so we can see what's happened over the course of the last week. Beautiful trade. Are you still in it?
No, I closed that trade, but as you could see, I mean, it did what I was hoping it would do there. When I entered, it was at around 128.50, somewhere around there. So you had a nice little $3 bump. You could have taken profit at any time. If you're still in it, take profit now. But that trade worked out fine. Currently riding a nice Tesla short, which is working out. I'm in AVGO, which is going to, obviously run with NVIDIA earnings tonight. And a Starbucks short, which as of yesterday was kind of bust, but now today is revitalized. So those are my.
All right, let's take a look at the Tesla short. As I'm going through the charts, you're going to see our sell and buy signals on a variety of time frames. So you can see Tesla is on a sell signal right now.
Yep, I
Starbucks,
can
as
see
I
about that.
recall, had quite a rally yesterday, so it's given all that back, it seems. And yep, there you go. Looked really good yesterday, and then today you got the door slammed in your face.
Yeah. So I'm riding that. And, obviously on my larger account, I have a lot of shares in NVIDIA. I have shares of Amazon, I have shares of MSTR. And of course, I have shares of the ill-fated SMCI, which I am waiting for their response to some of the news that came out. GPM still seems to be pretty bullish on the stock and the position. They feel that everything there was kind of overblown. One thing I can tell you about SMCI, and this is certainly not something for anyone to play. You should just watch this, particularly with 400 as a natural line of support there. But it's one of the most short stocks in the market right now. And a strong Nvidia earnings tonight would suggest a hell of a short squeeze there. So I would caution anyone to stay away from any shorts on that stock right now. When you have
Mm.
something that low float, that high level of short interest, and then you have a potential catalyst coming in Nvidia earnings, that is a very volatile combination.
So the news overnight was that they are going to delay their earnings report, I believe, or uh,
No,
a filing
they
of some
delayed their
type.
filing of uh, they delayed their what do you call it, their 10K filing, um, and JPM spoke to them. They underscored it's an independent process. They blamed the delay on a few elements taking longer. They actually expected to have it out today or tomorrow, but there's no doubt they need to respond to the Hindenburg short report that came out, which was in the view of some, just rehashing old news. In the view of others, pretty damning. So this is sort of a shoot first, ask questions later type thing with investors, where, well, if there's smoke, there's fire. You get a short report from Hindenburg, and now they're delaying their filing. Must mean something's wrong. If they can come out and show that nothing is wrong, then this thing is going to explode from the short squeeze. But
I may do a
either way,
trade. I may do a trade here. I've got something setting up here on ES. I have a bullish cycle that is not producing on SPY, and I have the market starting to break down below this little upward sloping trend line here. I've already seen selling pressure today, so they're back at it. I'm going to take a look at VXX, see what it's doing. I've got my order queued and ready to go here. And let's see what VXX is doing. It's continuing to hold this. It's not backing off on this support on the market here. So it looks like it wants to keep going higher. I'm looking to short ES in here. So when I do it, it's going to be boom, boom, and I'm going to be in. So just letting
to
you
be
know
clear for
that
the viewers, you're shorting futures, right? You're shorting the
I'm
future contract.
shorting the S&P 500 futures. And again, I'd like to let this bullish cycle run. I'd like to get a bearish cross in here. I'd like to see no advancement in SPY. So while this is all happening, if I get a boom, big long green candle, all bets are off. I don't have any reason to take a short position, but you can see how oftentimes when they hunt for stops, they will take out that low, they will flush out those sell stops, and then the market will bounce right back into the range. We've had a lot of choppy trading so far, so you have to err on the side of caution and assume that you're going to bounce back into that range. Well, now I'm starting to get little pieces of information that tell me that this time could be different. So I don't want to jump the gun. Just telling you, I've got the order loaded and ready to go. On SMCI, the way the market operates is that shoot first, ask questions later. So if there's uncertainty and there's something unexpected, first they're going to nail the stock and then they'll wait for the actual news to
Oh
come
yeah.
out. So that's how it works. I mean, SMCI does have a slight little bearish downtrend though, and it has a pretty good breach of support in here. But yeah, like I had mentioned to you earlier with Dell, SMCI, MU that I took profits on today, I would not be long or short tech personally because I view that as a binary event. But Harry has been very bullish on NVIDIA, so I'm going to bring that up. And he's done very well trading that stock so far
I
this year.
better be. I have 88,000 shares. Um,
Jeez.
I mean, I'm in at a pretty
Okay.
low point. I'm up over $13 on that trade still. Um, you know, Obviously, NVIDIA earnings tonight is one of the bigger catalysts for the end of the summer. Um, it's almost impossible. I mean, gun to head, I think it's probably 70-30. NVIDIA is going up, but in a world where Blackwell chip delays, and you have SMCI is one of their bigger customers. There are a lot of things that could also go wrong, but I would not bet against Jensen. I think he's one of the best CEOs uh, in the market. So, and a lot of these things come down to the CEO. You know, if anyone listens to earnings calls, it's pretty clear there are CEOs that investors respond well to, and ones that don't. Um, and Jensen certainly has a lot of goodwill, but none of that is technical. None of that is, predictable, and all of that is a gamble. So, from our perspective, you should stay away from it. The only thing, there's only two ways to play earnings from a technical perspective, right? And we've talked about this before, Pete, which is the time spreads, where you have this huge IV differential, and you have a propensity for a stock not to exceed expectations. That is one area you
Hey,
can.
Harry, I'm sorry to interject. I'm short S&P at 5607.
All right,
So I'm sorry.
shorted S&P here, looking for a breakdown of the low of the day, and then see if the sell stops are triggered. And just to finish the thought, the other way is where you do a straddle because you think the market makers have underestimated the potential move, and those are the two kind of less gambly ways to do a stock. You do the straddle based on historical likelihood of exceeding expectations, and you do the time spread based on an IV differential and that historical. So those are the two areas that if you were looking to play earnings, you would. I don't see any earnings play here at the moment. I might look into option stalker here, go into market view, pre-earn options, and then see if there is something that kind of has a low percentage of times exceeded and a very high differential. Those would be the keys.
What is your, and there we get the market breakdown. We have a new low a day. So,
There you
uh,
go. Just got your profit.
yeah, I mean, I'm probably going to hang on to the position because at this point, if VIX is continuing to move higher, my opinion is that this could be a legitimate breakdown and we could continue to float lower. And let's take a look at VIX. I was going to ask you, so how does seeing the QQQ break the 50-day moving average? It's tested it a bunch of times today. Do you see that as kind of a non-event because the market hasn't closed yet today,
Yeah,
and it could just as easily bounce off the 50-day moving average?
I do. I see it as, it's hitting the 15 EMA right now. Um, I really don't. I mean, Nvidia earnings is going to determine the QQQ. Um, that is a proxy straddle if one wanted to do it. Uh, I think that it's not going to stray too far from that SMA because you know if Nvidia comes in and blows away earnings and shoots up to 145, that's going to drag the Nasdaq up, and it's going to drag all the ETFs up. So I think right now, my guess is you will see QQQ bounce before the close and settle somewhere close to that 50, basically showing, hey, we're going to wait to see what Nvidia has for us.
Yeah, and as it's funny because as bearish as Harry is, I'm kind of as bullish as he is. I'm kind of the bearish guy. So I think that his bullishness and my bearishness are pretty much represented in what the heck the market's been doing.
Yeah,
Okay, so there are a number of people out there, and I can make cases why I think the market's going to go down. Harry can make very legitimate cases on why he feels the market's going to go higher. And if you look at the S&P 500, it's done a whole lot of nothing here over the course of the last 2 weeks. And so when I look at QQQ in particular, what gets my attention is we've got this lower high double top. We're barely able to eclipse the 50-day moving average. We had this long bearish engulfing candle. Okay, well, we don't get long or short on long candles. We wait to see what they produce. And in this case, we've been able to get back down below that low, that close of that long red candle. And now we are below it, which also coincides with the 50-day moving average. So I view that as a bearish setup with a lower high double top. But NVIDIA is 6.5% of QQQ. If they
Hmm.
come out with a great number, this is going to change instantly. But if they come out with a soft number, hello 100-day moving average on QQQ, I think it gets down there pretty easily. As far as the average move on Nvidia, it's about 7% over the course of the last 12 quarters. And we know because we track that. We have that
Right.
in our, and I'll bring up market view. And so in market view, we've got a pre earnings options tab. And we use this for all of our calendar spreads. And I'll expand it a little bit so that you can see the entire page. Very useful resource. It's sorted by option liquidity with the highest option liquidity at the top. But as we go down through the list, you can see there's NVIDIA, and the expected move is around 11%. This is based on end of day options pricing yesterday. The average move over the last 12 quarters is about 7%, and the times exceeded is 20%. And then you can take a look at this week's option implied volatility versus next week's option implied volatility, and then you can see your differential. And this is what sets us up for our earnings calendar plays that we like to do. Also, a good resource because if you are long stocks or short stocks, you can just bring this up and you can see, hey, who's announcing after the close or before the open? And are there any tangent stocks that could impact my position? If so, then I've got to decide if I want to take that overnight risk or not. Very, very useful tool that we have.
I think people would love to hear. I mean, I love these new trade signals. They're the best I've seen, really. And obviously, and I'm sure as you covered yesterday, no one indicator or signal should determine your trade. There's the context of the market. There's the a million things that go into it. But a powerful, accurate trade signal where you can look back historically and see how accurate it is a potent tool in your trading repertoire. I think people would love to know a little bit more, and what obviously not give away the secret sauce there, Pete, but how this is so different than your typical RSI, MACD, all the others that they've been used to, which are very reactive kind of symbol, indicators. This trade symbol signal is a cumulative work of many years for you, and maybe a little bit about how different it is from what they're used to.
Yeah, well, thanks for the plug. Uh, it is different. I developed Option Stalker Pro because I had concepts of things that were not being measured by current indicators that were available at the time. And I needed to collect my own data and I needed to do my own raw calculations on that data to create my own variables. And this has cost me hundreds of thousands of dollars. And it's been much more than a 10-year journey. And, all I can really tell you is that I feel like a biotech company in some respects because you have so many things that seem so dang promising, and then you actually put them to the test and they fail miserably. And you look at all this time and energy that you've spent in, and you get nothing out of it. And you have no guarantee that anything is ever going to be successful. Yet over time, you do make these small incremental discoveries and these small incremental changes. And eventually, I found something that really worked well. Well, that was the 1OP indicator. And for years, I tried to get, here's an example. It's predictive. I mean, if every indicator is lagging, I don't want lagging. The move is already unfolded. I can use price action and trade it. But what indicator do you know that right here is going to be giving you a sell signal on the S&P 500? None. There's not one. There's not one indicator that's going to be doing that. Okay. Oh, but the market still went up. But this is throwing caution to the wind and telling you that, hey, we're going to have a downward move in the market in here. So it's predictive, not reactive. But for a very long time, I could not deconstruct 1OP. It has divergences. So there will be times when you see the indicator going down like this, which would be bearish, and the market going up. Well, how do I get rid of this? And I had some concepts on how I could deconstruct everything and reassemble it, and I was able to do that. And I had a number of different methods to it that I tested this year. And the long and short of it is, it's brutally difficult. What I can tell you that in today's live event description, I'm going to include a link to an article that describes how you should trade the trade signals. What are some of the things that you need to be looking for? This is not the Holy Grail. Okay, it's not the Holy Grail. But if you use some of your trading skills in conjunction with these signals are going to be a primary consideration for you. You're going to find some unbelievable trades. And I had mentioned Wolf earlier today. That was a stock that I pointed out 1 minute into the open today. Look at that puppy. And let's look at that trade signal right up in here. Set an alert at the low of the prior day. This is when I told everybody stock's gone from $12 down to 10.62. The other one was MBLY. Got the low on a sell signal. Hello. So anyway, as we look at charts, seeing is believing. As we look at charts, just look at some of these trade signals and then ask yourself, do I think I could have made some money on these trade signals? As with anything that is technically related, you have really three axes. It's price, volume, time. But there are many different ways to gauge those three dimensions, and that's what I've been able to do. So that's about as much as I really want to get into it. For you as a user, it's just a matter of what is the arrow telling you, and you do not want to trade against it. You don't always have to take the trade signal, but you should not trade against it.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty key thing there. I mean, just having it on a checklist of, okay, I want to take this position long, everything's setting up. Make sure you have the buy signal, right? I mean, it's not saying, all right, if you see the buy signal, then take the trade. But if you're going to take the trade, make it something on your checklist. If it has the buy signal, and then you're like, when should I get out? Well, there's a pretty clear exit signal here too. So it really helps you put up the guardrails and the guideposts. And I'm not trying to just plug. I just am very impressed with them, and I don't impress easily on these things. So credit where credit's due here. Really good job.
I'm excited you're using them. I'm excited Dave is using them. Really looking forward to getting feedback from everyone else that's using the trade signals. I use them. And so here was another example where you had a bearish cross in 1OP right up here when we're compressing. That told me that we're going to see a wave down. We're going to see a breakdown. I just have to wait for confirmation. And here you get your big wave of selling. Now in here, okay, we should see a bounce. Okay, we got a bullish cross. What is the nature and character of the bounce? Is it tall? Did it recover much of the losses? Is it brief? Is it shallow? Well, if it's brief and shallow, just like this was, just like I told you 15 minutes ago, then if it's brief and shallow, that means that this pending bearish cross is going to produce, and it has. So anyway, I don't want to, sound too promotional here. So we just look at them on the charts and see if you think you could make money trading these signals.
So looking at some stocks here, if I was like, it's not obviously given today's price action, there aren't many bearish but bullish picks here. Um, JPM is an example where I would look for, you had a nice buy signal yesterday on JPM, yesterday morning. That would have given you a really nice gain. You had an exit earlier this morning. I would wait for another buy signal on something. This is how I would use it. I like the chart on JPM. I like the bullish setup on it. It's not too extended here. It's obviously doing well in a bearish environment at the moment. So that's one where I would wait for a buy signal on the M5 chart. And if I got that, that's a stock that I would consider taking off, right? That would be
So
a
let
nice.
me, if you don't mind, let me do a little technical analysis on the M5 because you pointed out the bullish signal yesterday. I love this because there's your buy signal and the stock does nothing all day. The market did absolutely nothing yesterday. It was like watching paint dry. So if you're running a search, which by the way, we can search for buy signals on a 5-minute basis. So you run a search along with other criteria on, and JPM comes up. It would come up because the D1 chart looks great. So yeah, hey, this looks good. You set an alert at the high from from yesterday if you're doing end of day analysis. And so this morning you come in and boom, the stock breaks out and takes out the prior day's high, and it's on a buy signal, and it has relative strength, and it has heavy volume. Checkbox, checkbox, checkbox. So now you don't have to chase a long green candle like this. You wait for it to come in a little bit. Hey, VWAP is holding. This is a good entry point, and the market's not going anywhere. You get in here, you ride this thing up, and hey, the market's starting to fall apart. I think I'll take my gains.
Someone's asking, by the way, which package has the trade signal? Do they need to get the pro package? I don't know the answer to that. You would.
We have included the trade signals in Option Stalker or Option Stalker Pro. Either one, you will have the trade signals.
Here's a another bullish pick I like. Just to go through another bullish pick, and it actually is on a buy signal still, no exit. GILD, Gilead. If you look at that stock, take a look at the technicals here. You see the break of the high on July 30th. Obviously, you have a bounce off of the 200 SMA way back August 19th, and you have a nice clear upward trend. And then you have today where in a bearish environment, the stock just continues to go up. So um,
Mhm.
I think GILD it's not an exciting stock by any means. Gilead's not going to blow the doors off. You don't have the ATR for that. It doesn't have the movement for that. It's the type of stock that you want to today. You got a nice bump on it, but you get 30, 40 cents a day on a stock like that. That's kind of what you're looking for. But if you're looking
And
for a decent bullish pick, Gilead is a nice setup.
yep, and another feature of Option Stalker Pro, you don't get this in Option Stalker, is our automated trend line. So you can see this high plus trend line that came into play right at the high of the day today. And we had some people looking at it earlier in the chat room. And I said, make sure, it breaks through this high plus trend line. And yes, it's through this horizontal resistance level. So if we go into M5, again, just an awareness of where all these things come into play. That's what trading is. So I'm going to right click. What I can do is actually set a horizontal alert right here. And if the stock is able to get above that, it's going to be challenging that upward sloping trend line. And then I'll have the stock above VWAP as well. And I'm going to give you one that I saw today that I like on the long side, and that is RTX. And on a D1 basis, you can see how the stock is breaking through this compression right here. This looks like it's going to stage another leg higher. War is very good for business.
I love
So,
RTX. In fact,
and
you
there,
know me, I love stocks at all-time highs. I do. Um, so I think, that's right there for a pick of the week for me, RTX. I mean, I'm not going to, it's your pick, Pete, but I love it. I think it's great. I think everything about it is exactly what you'd be looking for in a long in this situation.
yeah, it's nice too because it's out of the tech sector, which, we got a little uncertainty tonight in the tech sector. And there's so many conflicts right now globally, whether it's the bombing that's taking place in Ukraine and their need for other missiles or what's happening in the Middle East. So yeah, I think business is going to be good for them for a while. And just very quickly, here's what I'm watching. I've got this bearish 10p cross. I have this long red candle to a new low of the day, and we've retraced it. So I'm not shocked that we're seeing bounces in here. I'm kind of expecting that on a day like today, but I want to see this bearish cycle produce. If it doesn't, I'm going to exit the trade. Just that simple. So anyway, sorry to interject here, but I got that
No,
trade on, so I want to let people know what my thought process is.
we have a couple of questions here. Some are probably not able to answer much, but uh, can the platform be used in the UK? Is one question someone had.
Yes, absolutely. Interactive brokers, API. Well, first of all, the platform can be used anywhere because we have a real-time data feed called Intrinio, and it is only from one exchange. But yes, you will have live data coming into the platform. Uh, and then if you have an account with Schwab or Interactive Brokers, Schwab, we're writing into their API right now, so you'll have those two alternatives from the UK. Interactive Brokers, my gosh, they are licensed in almost every country in the world. So
You
they
would think
are,
they'd have a better UI, um,
you
given
would.
how big they are. Here's sort of an unanswerable question. We get this type of question a lot. It's from the chat room. I can do it. Asked, any insight projection into where the market could possibly be headed after Nvidia and into September. I know it's a big question. It's not just a big question. It's sort of, if we knew the answer to that, uh, we'd be far ahead of just about anybody else in the financial world. Look, all you can do is one, you look historically. September is historically a weak month, right? Particularly the last 2 weeks of September. So you have that. You have historical weakness. However, this September you have the potential of a rate cut coming. So how is the rate cut going to be received by the market? So that's another intangible. Nvidia, I mean, obviously, if Nvidia does well, and odds are it will, right? Because all we can go by is the last 6, 7. Nvidia has been the most dependable stock there. So odds are it will. Doesn't mean it will. It means odds are it will. Rising tide raises all ships, right? And right now Nvidia is that tide. So obviously Nvidia does well. Everything is going to do well with it. But what you're talking about here are a lot of intangibles, right? A lot of reasons why maybe you can't rely fully on historical. Historically, you would normally rely and say, okay, all things given being equal, September is a bearish month. But they come out with a 50-point rate cut in September. Well, now it's not so bearish anymore, is it? Historically, Nvidia does well on earnings. Well, if they come out and say, hey, the Blackwell delay hasn't resulted in as many H100 orders as we had hoped, and now all of a sudden Nvidia drops and takes the entire market down with it. So, you're asking a question that normally we could give you a stock answer relying on historicals, but historicals are only as good as there isn't any interceding events that's going to disrupt that trend, and there are potential interceding events. So that's a long way to say I don't fucking know.
Well, I think we already said that, didn't we? I
Yep.
mean, you're neutral to bullish. I'm neutral to bearish. The market hasn't gone anywhere, and everybody's always looking for. Well, you got to tell me right here, right now, what the market's going to do. I'll tell you that if the market sold off like this, we lost 10%, and I have documented this, and I have written about it, and I have done videos on it. The only time that I would have been certain that the next leg would be lower is if the bounce that we had here, which we were looking for, was wimpy, shallow, and brief, because wham, 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 sellers would have been taking advantage of any bounce and they would have been reducing risk. That didn't happen. The market got right through the 50-day moving average and AVWAP-Q. Okay, that means I have no clue of what the hell is going to happen. Okay, but that is a pattern that I would have had confidence in. That is a pattern that I would have traded. When I did not get it, it told me focus on day trading. Wait till you're certain.
There's two, I mean, here's just a general rule. When you see the market in compression, as Pete said, hey, it hasn't gone anywhere, right? If you see a stock or the market hanging around an SMA, it generally means investors are waiting. They're in waiting mode, right? Those type of situations generally come with reduced volume. Have we had reduced volume in the market? Yes. So waiting mode. What are they waiting for? Maybe they're waiting for NVIDIA earnings. Maybe they're waiting for more clarity on the Fed decision or how many rate cuts there'll be this year. Maybe they're waiting on more developments internationally, or maybe they're waiting on more uh, economic numbers. But they're clearly waiting on something, right? And to try to make a guess as to what they're waiting on is a bit of a fool's errand. But they're waiting, and as a trader, your job is to say, okay, so we're kind of in stasis here. Is there any stocks they're not waiting on? Are there any stocks that they're like, I'm selling this now or I'm buying this now? And when I say they, I'm saying institutions are. I don't care what Joe from Ohio is doing. I'm talking about institutions are in a stock, and that's called relative strength. That's called relative weakness. And when you have these moments of basic, market flatness, and you see a daily chart on a stock that basically was like market's flat, but this stock isn't, it's just going, like something like a JPM, for example. And that shows that, okay, they're not in waiting mode on this stock. They are overall, but for this stock, they're not. Why? And that gives you some insight into institutional thinking. That's what you want.
Perfect explanation. And so the market first, is going to dictate how we trade. It's going to dictate how aggressively we trade, what our bias is. And when you have a market confidence that's at zero, I don't know if we're going higher or lower. Instantly, what that does is it tells you trim your size, trim your trade count. Okay, we're in a holding pattern, we're waiting. Yet, Micron has been selling off like mad. Micron barely got above the 200-day moving average. Micron easily fell below that 200-day moving average when the market was treading water near the all-time high. That told me that this stock wants to go lower. That's why we trade stocks and not the index. And if we take a look at JPM, that is Harry's example, this market in this market, this stock did not care that the market was flatlining. It continued to inch higher. So there was an opportunity for us to trade that.
And that's what it's all about, really. I mean, as we always said, the methods that Pete and I teach here, and that he has written in the system that I've written up in the wiki. Yeah, there's a lot of nuance to it, of course, and there's a lot that over time experience is going to give you um, to help you, particularly in those kind of iffy situations. But at a 30,000 foot level, this shit's not complicated. This is not brain surgery here. The rules, the idea, the notion behind it. And it's also an understanding. I mean, look, we all remember high school, right? College. And if you understood the concepts, you do better on the test than if you try to straight memorize, right? So you can straight memorize. Here's my checklist: a buy signal, volume up, over the VWAP, no resistance ahead of it, check, 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 good, 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 boom, bye. But unless you understand the core principles behind why those things are telling you what they're telling you, which really breaks down to following what institutions are doing, and really internalizing, understanding it, memorizing all those things aren't going to help. But beyond that, once you have, and I've seen many people who, and there's always that joke, right, where there are people out there right now that I know that could teach this method, but could not be profitable in it themselves. They could teach it. They could even tell you what you're doing wrong. Now, they can't be profitable themselves. Now, I would hesitate to listen to those people because unless someone could show you that they're good at something personally, then you probably should hesitate as a general rule following their advice. But that remaining X factor problem is mindset, right? And that's why there are so many people who can teach it but can't do it because they know what the right thing to do is. They can even tell you when you're doing the wrong thing. They just can't do it themselves. They have a mental block, an emotional block, whatever it is. Some of these are deep. Some of these go back to freaking childhood, and some of these are very surface level. But once you get down the method and all the tools are provided here, right? Whether it's in the chat room and all the tools are there. Then it's on you to really identify the mindset issues that you're having to really push past this.
I did incidentally scratch my SPY or ES trade. I didn't, I had this nice move lower. I had cushion because my entry was good right in here, but I didn't like the fact that we were retracing all of this long red candle. I didn't like the fact that we're only seeing long red candles. I wanted to see a nice steady progression lower. So if I'm in the trade and I don't like what I see, and my thesis is that this long red candle is going to hold at least half of it, and we instantly get back above the high of it, I'm out. Okay, there's
Good,
no
good
reason
exit.
for me to be in that trade.
I see a double bottom on SPY right now on the M5, and that usually tells me that some point in the next hour or so we might try to test VWAP here.
Mhm.
If we get a test of VWAP, that will then become a pretty strong determining factor as to whether or not SPY's going to start filling the gap today or not. But I'm looking at a test of VWAP perhaps coming up, and I do think that's going to be tied into the Qs trying to move back towards their SMA before the close of the day. Like I said earlier, I do not believe it is going to venture too far from the 50 SMA 50 before NVIDIA earnings.
Yep, and we do have a little bit of end of month fund buying that'll probably start coming in. It's the 28th, probably tomorrow and Friday. I would expect to see a little bit more of it. So that's just a tiny little influence, but when you don't have a lot of volume, anything matters. Everything matters.
Yeah.
All right.
You might also see a lot of one thing to keep in mind if you do see let's say a pop in tech in the last hour. What that could represent is there are a lot of shorts out there, whether it's SMCI, whether it's AVG, or whether any of these tech stocks, they all have their certain percent of shorts. And no matter who you are, whether you're Berkshire Hathaway or JPM or Joe from Ohio, do you want to be short tech going into an NVIDIA earnings? Well, some might, but a lot probably don't. So when shorts close out, as many of you know, it has the effect of being a bullish impact on the stock. It's the same thing as because you have to buy back that stock when you close the short, and so you get this buying coming in. That's actually not real buying. It's buying by closing a short. So you might see that in the last hour. I'm not saying it will happen. I'm just saying these are the things that you could keep an eye on. Keep an eye on QQQ as you go into the close. If you do see it start hitting back up towards the 50 SMA, that is why.
I will mention to all of you who are on board, give me a symbol, give me a time frame. I must have both. And I will try and just flip up some charts so that you can see how the buy and sell signals performed. No cherry picking. I'm just going to post whatever you guys put up in there.
I'll give you a interesting one here, Pete, particularly because we have crowd earnings tonight, right? That's so we're talking about stocks that might be correlated. But let's put that aside for a second and just look at the chart of Palo Alto. So let's take a look. Take a look at Pan W. Take a look at that buy signal that hit just about an hour ago, 50 minutes ago on the M5. And the cross and break of VWAP that we just had here on the intraday. And then you look at the daily chart and see that gap up on August 20th being held. And you see this kind of nice upper progression holding its EMA and above the SMAs. What do you think of Palo Alto?
I like it. Very nice. Yes, so you've got this horizontal breakout right here after earnings. We don't chase long green candles after earnings. We wait to see the open held, this horizontal breakout held. Uh, yeah, this all looks really good. There's your EMA 8 held. And then today, the stock has excellent relative strength. Sure, they sold it off with QQQ, but look at the bounce this thing. It is up on the day when QQQ is down. So this stock has relative strength, green and above zero here.
And
So
click on your
yeah,
relative strength 30 indicator there, and you'll see it as the
yep.
number 3 stock.
So we'll go into bullish and we'll go to relative strength 30 right here in our search. And there it is right here, which incidentally, you can also see all of the status for the trade signals across multiple time frames, which the searches by nature are going to put the best stocks in front of you. When you add the ability to visually see where those trade signals are across multiple time frames, it allows you to, at a glimpse, instantly zero in on what the best prospects would be, long or short. So yeah, I definitely like that on the long side, and I'm looking for anything. I haven't given a short yet today, so I'm going to be looking for a short. Here we've got coin, and you can see how coin is bearish across multiple time frames. So is MSTR. So I'm going to just bring up the D1 and look at that, see if there's anything. Yeah, there is a breakdown on coin below the 200-day moving average. Um, I kind of like that short, looks pretty dang good. MSTR. And this is still in a tight compression below AVWAP-Q, finding a difficult time at the 100-day, room down to the 200-day. Maybe. Still haven't found the short that I want to highlight though. So
Someone asked, what do we think of the gold rally? I mean, look, gold is a flight to safety, right? It just shows what a gold rally is just basically that's that sort of uncertainty on investors. That's a hedge. That's a, whether it's a hedge against inflation returning, or the Fed left the rates restrictive for too long and they fear that a recession is going to hit. International conflict. There are so many pressure points that I think it becomes sort of a concentrated rally, but more of a widespread. Yeah, it would make sense to add to some gold to a portfolio right here, given that there are so many things that could go wrong. And not saying that's not always the case, but now that seems to be more so the case. And you have a big election coming up. You just have a lot of things, and when you have that level of uncertainty, you have that. So uh, that's sort of why that's occurring. I wouldn't put much stock into it, not pun intended, because you also have equities rising. Um, so you combine the two today. Am I
yeah,
YOLOing in NVIDIA into earnings? I don't want to call it YOLOing, but I am long 88,000 shares and I haven't sold them yet. So you will see as it comes down to the close what my decision will be.
let's see. AAP is a really weak stock. I'm just bringing that up. That was on breakdown times two. So we have two technical breakdowns of trend lines. So that is a little nasty. Um, Here's a search that I like using in conjunction with these trade signals is we have a search that looks for a breakdown below major moving averages. And so right now I am in the bearish search area, and bearish SMA cross is what I've clicked on. So here's how it works. We use 50-day, 100-day, 200-day. The stock was above any of those three yesterday, and today it is below any of those three. And so as I look through this chart, I know that all of these stocks are in a technical breakdown below those major moving averages. And if I start looking at where I've got red dots across the board, I know, like in the case of Microsoft, let's see how that's the 200-day moving average. It's trying to get below that 200-day moving average. I'd rather have it already below it and continuing to drift lower than bouncing here with the market. So don't know that I would be taking that one. That's not going to be my pick, but I'm going to keep
I just
looking.
made my
So
pick, Pete. I
you
have my
did.
pick of the
Okay.
week.
Oh,
Here it
good.
is. And I just posted the trade as well. I have shorted Team, TEAM, Team. I did a put debit spread 160, 157.5 for 85 cents. I did that for 10 contracts. So it's not terribly expensive to do that put debit spread. I like the rejection here from Team uh, on the SMA. I like the inability for it to recover the gap. I think it's just a overall pretty bearish stock that tends to move. Um, yeah, team is my pick here.
All right. Yeah, it's got definitely some weakness. You can see this bounce in the market right here. Stock is not able to quite get off the deck here, which tells you that there are sellers keeping pressure on it. So, okay, looks good. I am going to
I
keep
also like the
on.
price of the PDF. It's very cheap options. The 160, 157.50 PDF, which you'd want to get for $1.25 or less, I'm able to get right now for 85 cents. So I also like the option pricing is really what kind of put me over the edge on that trade.
Okay. Noticing, are you in Amazon at all?
I am actually, but I mean, I'm long-term Amazon. I have 25,000 shares.
Okay. Oh, that one's still on a buy signal there, so I'm not overly interested in that. Although that is a nice little breakdown below
Mm-hmm.
the 200-day moving average, and it seems to be staying below that level. It is a fairly choppy stock too. I mean, Amazon doesn't go anywhere fast.
No.
I'm kind of leaning on this coin breakdown here. So, you've got this pretty decent sell off down below the 200-day moving average. The stock really has not been able to bounce and run higher when the market really ran. Let me put up the SPY overlay. Actually, I don't need to do that. You can just take a look at real relative weakness, and the fact that it's red and below zero tells you that the stock has been weak relative to the market. Today, you get just a little kink in the armor in the S&P 500 and QQQ, and doink, stock is right below that 200-day moving average. And let's take a look at the M5. And you can see here also, stock is below the prior day's low. Has some volume coming in here. I'd like to see better than that. Not a 5-star short, but for right now, coin is kind of my bearish default.
I like it.
Actually, I had one other that was in this same group, Hut, and that is one that I had pointed out yesterday on this sell signal. That was very nice. And so D1 is weak. That could be another one to take a look at below that 200-day moving average right here. So I'm still going to keep looking. I'll find something in here.
Hmm. Let's see here. Any other, you look at obviously red royal flush, and so many of these are going to be correlated with NVIDIA that it makes it difficult trade to make. But if you go to
Y-
pop there for obvious, you get a lot more.
Yeah,
And
I've got my pick. I do have my pick.
go
I
for it.
like AA. I like AA short. Okay, you can see here the stock has been in a pretty steady trend lower. It bounces, but it can't get through the 50-day moving average. Okay, it gets rejected off of that earlier this week, and
200 to
now
200.
today, uh, well, it gets rejected off the 50, and now today it's below the 200.
Oh, right,
So,
right, right.
yeah, yes, and there's AVWAP right there, this red line. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click GTC, and I'm going to double click on today's bar, and now I have an alert. So the caveat is if NVIDIA earnings reaction is negative and if the stock is below a VWAP E, I like this as a short. Now, I do have to qualify this also. I am long AA as a very long term swing trade. I erroneously sold some puts against it and I decided, this stock doesn't go anywhere. I'm just going to take assignment on it. So, and I believe what's weighing on the stock right now is they just bought another company. So they
Hmm.
probably did some type of leverage deal. Interest rates are high. So I think that's weighing on the stock right now. But yes, if it can break down through this support level, the low today, and the reaction to NVIDIA is negative, I like Alcoa on the short side. That will be my short pick, and RTX is my long pick.
Okay. Um, Anything else? It's going to be a pretty interesting night tonight. NVIDIA, by the way, also has several other bullets in the chamber because they are such a cash-rich company. What cash-rich companies can do, particularly if they feel, oh, our earnings are okay or not going to blow the doors off anyone, whatever, is they can authorize buybacks. NVIDIA doesn't, or can authorize a dividend finally. Anything like that, a massive buyback, a dividend, is sort of ammo that these companies have in their chambers, but you have to be cash rich to do it. Apple is, Nvidia is. Those type of companies are able to do those kind of incentives for investors that we're going to buy back $5 billion worth of stock, or we're going to offer this much dividend on owning the stock. Things like that matter, and Nvidia is certainly capable of doing it. So keep an eye out for that too. And we're getting a nice bounce. Well, there's your SMCI has gone up $23 in the last 25 minutes. So is that a short squeeze? No, not yet, but it is squeezing higher at the moment. So just keep that in mind too.
And I'm just going through some of your symbols here. I just went through Chewy, Lulu, M5. For those of you looking at Lulu, they report earnings tomorrow. So you need to be very, very aware of that. As the stock gets right up until that earnings announcement, you're going to see volatility in it because these institutions are squaring off positions. So 1 minute it's going to look great, the next minute it could look like garbage. So be mindful of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Lulu reports tomorrow, right? And so does Dell, Ulta, Marvel, Mongo, Gap, Autodesk. You have a lot of these. This is sort of the last big week of earnings. Like, tonight, you also have, you could look at a stock like Upstart today and go, oh, maybe it's a good short or something. But you have a firm tonight, and a firm is going to impact Upstart. So, just keep those things in mind, particularly in earnings season. But once this week is over, it's less of a concern.
And for those of you who are asking for symbols and for me to flip through them, I'm happy to do them. But if you want to see a whole bunch of them, you can go into the live event I did yesterday. I must have covered 100 different stocks. So there's your M5 on DDOG. What you'll also notice is that even if you use no price action, no technical analysis, and you just blindly went in and you took a position, which I don't advocate doing this, okay? You're in almost every instance, if you're not chasing long candles, you're going to have a good entry point and you'll have cushion very, very early. And that allows you to put your stop at your entry price so you can scratch the trade and still have lots of upside potential to it. So then you're just in profit management mode. Let's see here. So I just went through D-Dog. I'll go through a couple more and I think we'll wrap up.
Yeah.
CVX, X, there you go. You got a little bit of a sell signal there, a nice little sell signal yesterday. And that was on 5. Nike, I think Nike has been strong recently, or at least bouncing. There's a sell signal down here, but it has been strong recently. It's been wanting you to be long that stock. So yes, this upward price action is going to delay you getting a short signal in here because it wants to make sure that this is a legitimate drop in the stock. So you've got your sell signal now. I'd be waiting on that. If I wanted to short Nike, let's take a look at that D1. Here's how I would approach it. Cool. I've got a good example for you. Okay. So you've got a stock that's been weak, drops hard, compresses. You got a bounce. Maybe it's a short covering bounce. It's finding resistance at the 200-day moving average. Maybe it's going to roll over from the 200-day moving average. I'm doing my end of day analysis. What do I do with this information? I go into the 5-minute chart. I take a look at the low of the day and I set an alert GTC, click, click, right on that. So tomorrow, if the stock opens lower, takes out the low of the day on heavy volume, now I've got an excellent trade served up on a silver platter because I put the time in after hours to do some searches, run some analysis, and set my alerts. That's how you would do it. Final one, ON, ON.
I have a quick one here while you look that one up, Pete.
Yep.
ENVX, someone asked me to look at the daily chart. Looking at the daily chart, yes, it looks bearish, but if you just draw a trend line from the bottom of 812, connected again to 819, connected to 820, you'll see it comes right in at the low of day today. So you have to set an alert there, set an alert on the low of the day. Also keep in mind this thing has a shit ATR. So, you're not going to get much out of it, but set an alert and then if it gets broken, then it becomes a short. If it doesn't, then just leave the stock alone.
I'm sorry, what was that symbol?
ENVX.
ENVX. Okay. And so uh, just recapping. So my long is RTX and my short is, I can't remember what my short was.
Oh, your short was
Uh,
AA.
oh, that's right. AA. Thank you very much. And you're long and you're short.
My short was Team, and my long would be Gilead.
All right, perfect. Everybody, thanks so much for attending.
Thanks,
We
everyone.
will we will see you soon. I'll do a video Sunday, and then we'll be around for the live event again next week. Trade well. See you then.
Bye bye.